It's that time of year when a lot of people start planning for their travel for the next year. And with the world still being in quite a flux, there's a lot that you need to know about travel in 2022. Let's go. Hey y'all, I'm Christi the Gen X Gypsy and welcome. It's my mission with this channel to share tips and advice so that we can live more adventurously in our midlife and beyond. In today's video, I'm going to share some important things that you need to be thinking about when planning your travel for 2022. First, and probably the most important thing you need to worry about travel in 2022 is using those travel credits that you might have been issued in spring of 2020. Most of those credits are going to expire by December of 2022. In fact, some of them might already be expiring at the end of this year in 2021. So you want to make sure that you look up the information to see how much travel credit you have available and when it expires. Now, in order to look up that travel credit information, if you don't know it off the top of your head already, you can just go and do a Google search and put in your airline plus travel credit, and it should pop up with the page for that airline and take you directly to their travel credit page. Now, in order to use that page, you will need your ticket information and or your confirmation number for the trip that you took before. Some of them might even require the credit voucher number that they sent you. And I know with some of them, when looking up those travel vouchers in your email, it can take a little bit of searching. You probably won't find it immediately just by putting in your airline name and looking through the emails that way. You might actually have to put in credit voucher or something along those lines in order to find that information in your email. Worst case scenario, try calling the airlines and seeing if you can get the information through their customer service. But I would use that as a last resort, given that the airlines are a little understaffed right now and it might take a while to get through to somebody to help you with that information. So try the other ways first and then go to the airline. Now, once you know what your credit voucher amount is, you need to start thinking about how you want to spend it. Now, you do not have to spend the whole voucher amount at one time. So say you had a trip planned to Paris in April of 2020 and you had an $800 ticket to fly to Paris, which, yes, I know that's probably a little bit on the cheap side, but go with me for my example. You have $800 on that credit in order to spend. Now, you could use $300 of it to go to Orlando, and then maybe another $300 to go to Austin, Texas, and then maybe the remaining $200 you could put towards a trip to New York City, or something along those lines. Now, I've just made those numbers up for this example. Don't hold me to those numbers as ticket prices, because honestly, I have no idea what ticket prices are for any of those places right now. Of course, in 2022, it is still going to be very important to know what the restrictions are for the destinations that you're planning on visiting, and also what the requirements are going to be when you return home. Now, you want to read those parameters very closely, because the difference between one place requiring a 72-hour advance test versus somewhere requiring a 3-day advance test, that actually makes a full day's difference in when you have the testing done. So you want to make sure that you read everything very closely. You don't want to get caught having to pay that $200 at the airport in order to have a test done. So make sure you're reading all of the parameters and you have everything lined up before you head out for your trip. In addition, most destinations have some sort of online portal that they have set up for you to upload all of your information to. You want to make sure that you get that done before you go on your trip so that you don't cause any unnecessary delays. And because you are going to have to deal with those online portals, you'll want to make sure that you have an international data plan when you're traveling. Most companies allow you to just turn a data plan on for when you're going to be traveling and then turn it back off when you get home. But make sure with your carrier if you can do that or not and how much it's going to cost. When you are checking with your carrier about your international data plan, make sure that you get the instructions on what settings need to be set on your phone in order for that data plan to work in the country that you're going to. I have unfortunately ended up with two situations in both France and in Guatemala where I had issues with my phone not actually working on the international data plan that I was paying a decent amount of money for. So make sure you know what those settings need to be, because each phone and each operating system can be different. It's probably a good idea to have your operating system on your phone updated before you leave so that you make sure that it's working the way that the phone company expects it to be working. As we move into 2022, the airlines are still trying hard to catch up to demand that is changing as destinations are opening up and closing down. Just recently, the US reopened their borders to international travelers for non-essential people. What that means is that the airlines will be changing flights a lot, and you might get some pretty big changes to your itinerary. We started planning a trip to Puerto Rico for Thanksgiving, this upcoming Thanksgiving, back in April, and we booked tickets through JetBlue. Our itinerary changed no less than 6 times in like 4 months because of the airlines constant changing and adding and taking away flights depending on demand. Now, we eventually decided to cancel our JetBlue tickets because they had changed us from a direct flight to a flight that was going to stick us with a 4-hour layover in Miami. So we changed and we actually got direct tickets on Frontier so that we arrive in Puerto Rico in a more timely manner. I'll let you know how the Frontier flight goes in a later video. Now, the point to that story is that you don't have to agree to the changes that the airline makes for you. You have the option to look at other options on that airline and maybe reschedule that itinerary, or you can look at other airlines and see if they have a better itinerary and cancel your flight with the original airline and rebook with another airline. Just make sure that you look and research all of your options and then make the choice that works best for you. If you are planning on buying travel insurance for your trip, make sure you read that coverage very carefully. There are many travel insurance companies who have updated their restrictions and will not cover cancellations due to anything to do with the virus. Now, if you want more information on travel insurance, I did a whole video that breaks down like whether you should buy travel insurance or not, and the various different kinds of travel insurance. I will link that below in the description so you can check that out after you finish this video. Like 2021, the travel forecast for 2022 is expecting a lot of domestic travel, especially geared towards outdoor experiences like the national parks or expansive adventure areas like Alaska. Unfortunately, what this means for you and those of us who like to fly by the seat of our pants is you're actually going to have to make reservations well in advance. Gone are the days you could just drive up to any national park or most state parks and have a campsite available for that evening. In fact, most of these parks are requiring you to have a reservation just to come visit the park during the day because they are limiting the number of visitors in there for each day. So make sure you do your research and find out if you need to make reservations before you go. If you're enjoying this video and you like the information that I'm sharing, if you could click that like button, and if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, maybe hit that subscribe button too. It does make a difference. Now moving on to the tech part of this video. As most of you are aware, there has been a continued shortage of computer chips for car manufacturing, and that trickles down into the rental car market. So as we saw a shortage of rental cars in 2021, we will continue to see a shortage of rental cars in 2022. So expect there to be a limited amount of cars to choose from, and the price of those cars being significantly higher than what you have had to pay for rental cars in the past. And that is going to go for the RV market as well, because RV rentals skyrocketed last year and they will probably be just as high again in 2022. Something that we ran into this last weekend when we were visiting the Outer Banks of North Carolina that I think is going to continue to be an issue into 2022 is eating out. Many restaurants have limited their hours of operation, or they're not even offering dine-in options at all. You are going to want to make sure you check the actual restaurant's website. Don't go off of what Google says, because Google has definitely not updated, or the locations themselves have not updated their information on Google. So you want to go to the website itself and check and see what their hours are, and if they are offering the type of dining service you want. Now, if you want takeout or you want dine-in, some of the places that used to do takeout no longer do takeout, but they'll let you eat in the restaurant, and vice versa. There are restaurants that you used to be able to dine in and are now only doing takeout. This is all due to the shortage of employees and some shortage of supplies. This, I believe, will continue to roll through 2022. So you want to be aware, if you have places that you really want to go eat at where you are going to visit, you want to do the research and see if maybe you need to go ahead and make a reservation 2 to 3 weeks before you go to your destination. And just be patient, because you are probably going to have limitations on places to eat out when you are traveling. You need patience and maybe an open door app on your phone so that you can make reservations on the fly when you're out there traveling around. And as with the restaurants, you cannot depend on the Google app to give you the correct information for hours and times and restrictions of any activity that you might want to do while you are traveling. If you want to go to a museum or a water park or any type of activity that you want to do, it's important to go to the website for those activities and check that directly. Hours are changing for different places. Some of the restrictions are different for different places. Even activities that are in one town, one place may require you to have reserved a ticket. Even if it's a free location or a free museum, you might still need to have a reservation before you can go. And they may require masks, whereas there can be another activity that doesn't have any of those restrictions at all. Just make sure you're doing a lot of research before you go, so that the things you really want to see, you don't miss out on because you didn't know ahead of time. Earlier this summer, when we went to the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, we really wanted to do the Alpine Coaster in Banner Elk. We didn't know that they were requiring reservations in order to do the ride, because in the past you could just show up and you stand in line and you do the ride. Luckily, we were able to go on the coaster because they had openings still available for that hour spot that we showed up in. But if it had been a crowded day, we would have missed out because we didn't know that we needed to call and make reservations. So that is a lesson that I learned, and I am slowly getting better at looking at those websites and figuring out whether we need to have reservations to go somewhere or not. Luckily, when we were in the Outer Banks this past weekend, most of the places did not require reservations. The only one that would have, and we did not go there, was the aquarium. But that's all due to change, so make sure you do your research. Well, as you can tell, 2022 is not going to be a year for spontaneous travel. You are going to have to do a lot more planning and research than you have in the past in order to have a fabulous adventure. If you are planning a trip to Alaska in 2022, check out this video next on what you need to know before you go. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.